Hello, gorgeous.
Welcome back, everybody, to Thembo Cinema. I am here with friend of the channel, Harlow Harlow. We are here today to break down a femme classic. In the era of Barbie that we are in, we like to look back at those femme movies that had a little bit more substance than people remember. And today we are breaking down 2003's Uptown Girls.
Are you really Tommy Gunn's daughter?
I can't believe it.
Molly Gunn was a rock and roll princess
I'm a fan of your father's. Thanks.
who led a charmed life.
What is that?
He was going to be my curry dinner one night, but we fell in love.
This one's for you.
Can I have him for my birthday?
Molly, focus.
Until reality
Your electric has been canceled. Who pays your bills?
Bob.
gave her a wake-up call.
Bob Kapowski disappeared.
With $100 million.
Now, the girl who never grew up
So what do I do about money?
get a job is about to face her biggest challenge.
Oh my God. You're my new nanny? The agency must really be getting desperate.
Thank you so much, Harlow. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Fabulous. I wanted to know, what was the first time you saw Uptown Girls?
The very first time I saw Uptown Girls was when it came out in theaters, so 20 years ago.
Oh my God, 20 years ago this month. Isn't that crazy?
That is so wild. 20 years ago, I saw it in theaters with my best friend Sammy and her mom and my mom. And it's just, ever since then, that's been like one of our movies that we'll quote still 20 years later. I have such very clear memories of our moms crying at the end and the two of us looking at them being like, "You're weird."
Well, you must have been like 1 year old, right?
Yeah, yes. Honestly, actually, I was still in utero.
Yeah, I was young and started with my dad and my sister who seemed to like it, but I fell in love with this movie, and it's a movie that I definitely return to every so often over the years. Not so much recently, which is why it was kind of cool to dive back in. And the movie still hits. It still hits on many different levels.
This movie holds up in a way that is always really surprising, especially for quote-unquote chick flicks from the early 2000s, because majority do not. It is very rare for a film of that time period to really hold up well, and this one does.
Really illustrates that power of the femme movie, where you had movies like Legally Blonde, you got movies today like Barbie, where they're trying to basically show that you can be hyper femme and still have agency, and it can still be a good movie.
You say that and bringing up Barbie. I made a TikTok about how I thought that the film doesn't do a really great job of showing how Barbie can be. It doesn't really give Barbie the choice of being hyper femme in the real world. Uptown Girls is a really great example of Molly is really feminine and doesn't change her femininity throughout the film.
Even when she's poor.
Yes. But she grows up and she changes. But the one thing that really doesn't change about her is her style. And in fact, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, but her style is what's gonna get her a career eventually.
So yes, like you said, I feel like people shouldn't judge these films off of maybe some of the pink or the glitter of it. I feel like so many women and so many feminine people sit through movies that maybe aren't for them, that are from a male perspective or from a masculine perspective, and they still know it's a good movie. They can still get into the story. So I think it's kind of a cop-out that some of the people, they're like, oh, it's just not for me. Some of the story aspects could be for you. Generational trauma and trauma bonding is for everybody, honey.
Everyone.
The movie is about trauma.
Why can't it be done in a really fabulous pink feminine way?
Right? Why not? It is a war crime that this movie has a 13% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's interesting because for me, when looking back at that time period, there's so many hyper femme films that were made that were written off at the time period. Marie Antoinette is always the go-to for me when I think of that, or Jennifer's Body is another one. And those films have gotten their flowers in the recent years. Those films have been revisited. And it's really interesting that Uptown Girls still hasn't gotten that.
Very much a Brittany Murphy vehicle. Brittany Murphy.
Hi, I'm Brittany Murphy.
It's
One
like
of my
you say your name and you get such excitement, but also such like tragic feels. Those who might be watching this that maybe don't know Brittany Murphy, which is crazy because it's, the kids these days, they might not know her,
Yeah.
She's an actress that rose to fame in the 90s, playing kind of the best friend / ugly duckling character in movies like Clueless.
You're a virgin who can't drive.
Which this movie ended up being kind of a Clueless reunion, which is kind of funny with Donald Faison.
It's so funny. All the years I have watched Uptown Girls, this is the first time where I was like, oh, they were both in Clueless.
Brittany Murphy rose to fame with like Clueless. She appeared in like sitcoms like Sister Sister, Boy Meets World. Towards the end of the 90s, you really got to see her acting talents from movies like Girl Interrupted.
You're just jealous, Lisa. Because I got better. Because I was released. Because I have a chance at a life.
Which, that movie with a lot of younger actresses who are very talented, I think she might have one of the better performances in that film. And then within the same year, doing Comedic Genius and Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one thing. Peter never would have pulled a shenanigan like that.
Well, you know what, Dad? You know what? Peter's gay. Gay!
Two amazing films. And they're such fun films to look at back now.
Those scenes with like Angelina, Winona, and Brittany are like all electric. And Brittany is kind of the one that's in control of those scenes too because of the way her character is, and it's fabulous.
I truly think that if Angelina Jolie wasn't like the girly of the moment, I feel like they would have pushed Brittany Murphy's performance more.
Best supporting actress.
Yeah.
Then she could have kissed her brother at the Oscars. The 2000s, you see her getting pushed more towards the front, and you also see her kind of conform more to this like early 21st century idea of a leading lady with like she goes blonde.
Throughout the 90s and for somewhat of the early 2000s, she really was being cast in these really interesting films that had some grit to it. I think she would have ever been allowed to become a lead. And I think that, especially at that time, you had to be a certain, especially look, to be a lead.
It really goes along with Hollywood history with people like, it reminds me a lot of Judy Garland, how Judy Garland seemed to really have to try to fit that mold, even though she was her very own person, but like the studios really tried to mold her to be like Lana Turner or someone that she wasn't.
Yeah. I think that's a good example of two very, very different performers. Their acting has such an honesty and a raw vulnerability. She is beautiful. And Judy Garland is a good example because I think now we look at pictures of Judy Garland and be like, how was she told she was ugly? That's a gorgeous woman. And I feel like that's the same thing with Brittany Murphy. It's like, how was she ever told she wasn't pretty enough to be like a teen queen?
And it's just sad too because you don't know what went into her pretty mysterious death at this point.
Actress Brittany Murphy died today at a hospital in Los Angeles. Murphy appeared in Sin City, Clueless, and 8 Mile among her 30 films. Police have opened an investigation into her death. Brittany Murphy was 32 years old.
It's still kind of a mystery. There's illness mixed with possible stuff with her husband. So it's kind of, there's a documentary out there that's not that great, but if you want a little bit more information about it, I would Google it, do some YouTube videos about it if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But you never know. Maybe if Hollywood and like culture in general let her kind of be herself, maybe we'd still have her today. And I just feel like she'd be giving so many great performances in films that come out today and in television.
I think now we're filming the kind of stories that are being told, especially women's stories.
Because women's stories matter.
Yeah.
Right. They just matter.
Also in TV too, I think, Brittany Murphy would be thriving in this era.
Imagine Brittany Murphy on White Lotus.
Yeah.
Like, or any show, like.
Always think about this when I think of her. There were pictures of her coming out of a ballet class towards the last year of her life. And a lot of people suspect because of the timeline that she was training Todd for Black Swan.
Oh, yes.
Rumor is that she would have been training for the Natalie Portman part, but I think she would have been incredible in the Mila Kunis part.
Oh my gosh, yes, I could totally see that. She could be incredible in a lot of parts in that movie. Like, she would be perfect for that Darren Aronofsky tone.
I like to rent happy movies and have a happy time. Relaxing, romantic comedies, chick flicks.
So you can't say 2003 child star without thinking of the one and only Dakota Fanning, who did the thing.
Did you hear that? I said I was sorry. I said I didn't want any daddy but him. Why don't you write that down?
Dakota Fanning did the thing. To be honest, she's kind of like the last big child star that's a household name. There's been child stars since, but not one that everybody knows and was everywhere. Dakota Fanning was everywhere in the early 2000s.
It was being touted as remember Jodie Foster being the comparison for her even then.
And the caliber of her acting is just so good. She's good at the comedy, but she's very good at the dramatic stuff. And this has to be one of my favorite performances of her. She's genuinely very, very funny and very touching as well.
I used to be a stand-up and I have a background with Second City and stuff like that. Being the straight man is very hard. That's very difficult. It takes a really skilled comic performer to be a good straight man. And for her to be that good at playing the straight comic character at 6'7".
Cute little scones.
You got your germy drool over my plastic scone, you freako.
Kid, have you ever been to a shrink?
Since I was 3. Give me that plate.
Oops, no, sorry, you might infect it.
No! Get a broom.
I am employed by your mother.
Do you see her anywhere? News flash. You're working for me. I quit! Swinging door.
So you got Brittany Murphy playing Molly, who is this carefree rich girl living in an apartment with her little pet pig named Moo. And she's living the life. She's an orphan because her dad, who was a rock star, and her mom died in a plane crash when she was a little girl.
Molly's machine, speak your piece. Oh, birthday girl. Pick up, pick up, pick up. Molly's machine, speak your piece. Hey, Molly.
And she's kind of just been living her life free since then, wild in the city. And the movie opens with her birthday, where she turns the hag old age of 22. I was like, wow, because I just turned 30 and I was beside myself with the way they were talking about this, especially she's dancing with one guy and he's like,
"You're 22? I just turned 19. I thought I'd kill myself. You look good."
Hilarious.
That clearly was older than Brittany Murphy, which is the funniest part of
yes. She's friends with Donald Faison, who plays Huey. Faison works for Heather Locklear, who plays Roma, who's a music producer who's producing this new rock star guy. And, right when Molly sees him, she's just head over heels.
Can I have him for my birthday?
No, Molly. Nah, I brought him here so Roma could check him out. Besides, he's 100% girly free.
He's definitely just cliche of her dad. Daddy issues, so relatable. And she ends up in the bathroom. She's got what's the little thing in her hair? She's got her little
lampshade.
Got a little lampshade. And doesn't Dakota Fanning come out of the bathroom and start reading her to Phil?
Yes.
Excuse me?
I had shoes like yours once. When I was 5.
And it's so funny because everyone around her is, and I'm sure it's really fake, is oh my God, I love that your hair piece. This designer, it's that designer. Who is it? Molly, it's really cute at Home Depot. But Dakota Fanning straight looks at her and be like, nice lampshade.
But you're still a little underage to be going out clubbing. aren't you?
You're a little overage to be wearing a lampshade in your hair.
Might be, for me personally, Dakota Fanning's like funniest scene, because she's just in full on. Basically, she acts like the mom, and Heather Locklear is like this teenager. She's like, get in the car.
Record a demo, something more up-tempo. I need something I can get on the radio.
Let's go.
Work it out with Huey. It's on us.
Go.
The tone of her performance is so right on.
Yeah. Let's also, like, I just want to acknowledge too, Heather Locklear was in such a like bad mom era. Because
Right?
not soon after, because soon after this also came the Hillary Duff classic, The Perfect Man.
So Molly ends up hooking up with Neil, who's played by Jesse Spencer, and she seems very, very into him, and she's very romantic, and he's a little new to this type of situation, and he's very focused on the music. She's like, like maybe put a hook in one of your songs.
Like a hook or like a chorus or something?
The hook?
Yeah.
I don't do hooks. I'm not a sellout. I don't wear purple and I don't do hooks.
She's like, I don't do hooks.
Like a pretentious, like, it's all about the music, babes. Like, it's just, it's me and my guitar and no one else. I'm celibate now because I put all that into just the music. I don't want distractions. I won't put a hook in my songs because I don't want to sell out. Like, shut up. He really only becomes truly interested in her when he finds out that her father was fictional rock icon Tommy Gunn.
Yeah, they go in her apartment, and he starts picking up the dad's guitar and plays the song Molly Smiles.
This is the acoustic Muddy Waters gave Tommy Gunn. He played it at Budokan. Daddy's little girl, that's you, paints the world with a magic wand.
Please don't sing that song.
Kind of an emotional song for her, because her dad died when she was a little girl, And she's just like, you want to like not? I'm trying to get it in with you. Like, can we put the guitar away?
And it gives very like, this is the last song that he might have ever. If this wasn't the last thing he ever recorded, this was the last thing he ever performed live. Like, it gives very like Janis Joplin, Bobby McGee.
Yes, it's actually kind of funny when you listen to the lyrics, because it almost sounds like this guy knew he was about to get into a plane crash and he wrote this song for her.
Whoever wrote the song wrote it with the mindset of like, this is his last song.
Yeah, she was like very horny, but she's also just being very honest, and she just wants to connect with this other person, clearly, and the daddy issues.
She's horny but broken, which is so relatable.
It's like one of my favorite character traits. So one day appears that her financial advisor,
like a money manager.
Yeah,
money
the
manager.
person that usually just takes care of all of her lifestyle and takes care of her life since her parents have been dead probably, completely takes advantage of the fact that she doesn't know anything about the real world and makes off with all of her money.
Bob's number's been disconnected. Oh God.
Yeah, he like essentially made offs her, which like.
Oh, he made off. Oh, he made off. Oh, okay, I see what you did there.
She like. This is a thing, and I was just thinking about this as we were talking about this movie. She never had like a legal guardian. She never had like any like parental figure. It seems like the only people who were around were like the doorman to make sure that like she got home safe, and her money manager to make sure that like she had money to live on. It makes it look like she literally had been like living in this mansion in the sky by herself since she was like 8.
Like a fairy tale.
You just assume that your money is being taken care of, but like she is in her apartment and the lights are all out, the phone doesn't work, nothing works.
The fairy tale is over very quickly and the reality has set in.
May I please ask your advice as per what to do in the meantime as far as, money?
Get a job?
So, like, what is she gonna do? She is dead broke. Well, in Molly's desperation, she turns to Huey, who has the great idea.
You're gonna get me a record deal.
Not exactly.
Since he works for Heather Locklear, she can be a nanny to Dakota Fanning's character, Ray. She can't keep a nanny. They're just flying off everywhere. So this could be the perfect match.
Yeah. Why not?
When they officially meet up, Molly goes to pick up Ray from school, and the back and forth reading just begins, and it's just delicious. all the delivery.
Yeah, it's just such like, it's like a game of tennis. Like, it's just so quick.
The iconic shot of Dakota Fanning's like extremely 2000 sunglasses and Brittany Murphy walking up.
Hi. Oh my God. You're my new nanny?
As you said, Brittany Murphy's just like, hi, sweetie. And Dakota's like, oh my God.
Dakota Fanning's basically 50 years old in this movie.
Yeah, she gives Botox. Like, she gives Botox face.
She does, weirdly, because she's always got that really tight bun.
She gives B. Arthur. She's giving B. Arthur.
Oh my God, she is!
Honey, are you all right?
I'll be fine. Is this about Arnie?
No, Blanche. She's upset because they keep changing the taste of Coke.
Yeah, the delivery.
Absolutely. If they, like, told, like, Dakota Fanning's parents, like, let her watch some Golden Girls.
I think Molly's drinking some sort of soda or something, and she's like, why don't you drink cyanide?
Fruit punch. Why don't you just drink cyanide? At least it's quick. Damn.
Act your age, not your shoe size. They're starting to get to know each other, Molly and Ray. You start to see Ray's life, that she lives in a very affluent apartment in New York City, too.
What they use for Molly's apartment is actually a very iconic building called the Dakota, which is where John Lennon lived at the time that he was assassinated. Also where Lauren Bacall lived up until I think she died too. So it's a very iconic building. Based on the look of the exterior of Ray's building, it looks like the Upper East Side.
In a very nice apartment and very spacious for New York City. They find out more about Ray's background with her mom is just very busy, doesn't seem to have the time of day for her, and just kind of gives her whatever she wants. Ray's father, we find out, lives in the apartment but is down the hall and is in a coma, which that's got to be heavy for a little kid to constantly know that your dad's like down the hall in a coma. Like, that's kind of scary.
This film is about dealing with childhood trauma in very different ways, and how
trauma sisters.
Yeah, they trauma bond, but like the way that they deal with it in the way is very different. Molly chooses not to grow up, and Ray chooses to grow up way too fast in order to not deal with real emotion. It's very Sound of Music. It's very The Nanny. Like, these very emotionally oppressed kids come in, meet like a very whimsical early 20s woman who's going to make them remember that they're children, and the woman also learns something by this process as well.
Fun. Fundamentals are the building blocks of fun. Oh, says who? Mikhail Baryshnikov.
I love just how you have all these different scenes of Molly and Ray kind of teaching each other. Basically, like, for Molly to take life a little bit more seriously sometimes, and for Ray to have a little bit more fun.
Why, I say, Lady Sassafras, would you like some creme fraiche to go with your darling pastries?
Ah! You just got your germy drool of my plastic scone, you freako!
And in between that, you have Molly still seeing Neil, who kind of writes her off at first because he was like, I can't see you. I need to focus on my career. She's got some sheets of Egyptian cotton, a little retail therapy as she buys these very expensive sheets, which we get that iconic song. And I wrote this song and it's got this hook, even though she said he doesn't like a hook.
I guess I just looked deep down inside and found that inner hook.
Pulls out his lucky jacket and shows that, like, she kind of, touched up his jacket with some leopard, and I think she kind of ruined it. I didn't like what she did with the jacket either.
I mean, I would have been mad.
Yo, I just wrote this song and I came over to show you, and immediately is like, we gotta stop this. We gotta go.
It's not about the jacket. I just can't see you. That's all.
Doesn't like her because, like, she's not serious. She doesn't have a job. She's like a rich, spoiled party girl to him. But that's why, like, I don't like him, because there is this sense of, like, he only wants to be around her because of who her father was.
I want to use her as a muse, though, and it's complicated because that's also who Ray's mom, Heather Locklear, is producing. Eventually in the film, though, she's trying to get Ray out of her shell a little bit. We have the iconic scene where they're on their way to Coney Island. And Ray reveals like she's never been to a theme park or anything like that. And she's like, Ray, you are so excited right now. And that's just like one of my favorite scenes. Makes her try a hot dog.
Let me go. Are you trying to murder me?
You have to eat one, Ray, or they're not gonna let you in. She's alive. She's alive. The operation was a success, ladies and gentlemen. She's alive.
It's so overdramatic and why I love Brittany.
Which is, by the way, a real law. You have to go to Nathan's and get a dog before you go into Coney Island. That it just is. It's interesting because we find out so much about Molly through this moment because
because they end up going there and it's shut down because they come too early in the season.
Which for someone who went there a lot is weird that Molly wouldn't have already thought that. I think that it's such a beautiful moment because you can tell Molly wants to break Ray out of this adult-made shell and let her be a kid again. That's the place she went to when she was going through stuff.
She's like actively processing it while she's with Ray.
Yeah, and when they like go back home and Ray's disappointed, Molly is like, I get this disappointment. And she kind of reveals why Coney Island means so much to her and why it helped her when her parents died. And
when her parents died, she ran away to Coney Island to the teacups. Like a fairy tale. It reminds me of like Alice in Wonderland running away or something.
It's kind of like showing Ray that there's like a childlike safe space for her somewhere in the world when the day that she's not going to be, this shell is not going to save her.
I feel like the teacups really just represent how she feels, that the world is just spinning out of control. And it's just like this beautiful metaphor is what it is.
Yeah, the teacups are a really great metaphor for what I like this, but also like what Brittany Murphy is trying to do for Dakota Fanning.
Ray, who, like I said, lives with her dad, who's in the coma, doesn't really interact with her dad, doesn't go in to visit him that often. And Molly is very sweet that she tries to, hey, like, if you can go talk to him, that's still your dad. Clearly, which is sad that no other adult, like her mom or any other adult, has really like showed Ray that it's safe and it's okay to still try to connect to him and make it less scary, because when you're a kid, it's scary to do that on your own. The movie kind of starts to come to a head, though. Molly one day comes in to Ray's house and sees Neil in the kitchen. Weird. What is he doing here? You hear Heather Locklear call from the other room, and you realize that Neil is sleeping with the mother.
Yes.
Too close for comfort for Molly. You have that iconic scene. Na, 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 na. Her walking through Central Park on the bridge to just breathe, which is like a fairy tale dramatic moment almost, but then you have the reality of New York City where get out of the water, it's contaminated.
Did you hear me? Did you hear me?
Yeah.
If you don't get out of there, I'll call the police.
Yeah, I'm getting out.
That's New York. It makes it seem like she can't really let go, and he clearly is like not into her.
Yeah.
No, I'm watching like, girl, really is not worth it.
Surprised Ray let her back in the apartment after that.
I'm not, and I'll tell you why. Because Ray is old, I think, mature enough to realize that Molly.
Or she was like, "Come here, I gotta clean you."
Yeah, it plays into this like very like nurturing side that Ray has, and Molly doesn't want to get rid of Moose, so she gives her to Ray. The minute she gets the pig, she's like taking care of it. It's her pet. Like she doesn't look at the pig as like a farm animal that needs to be out of her house. I think that's how she looks at Molly in a sense, like a farm animal to be taken care of.
Then in the film, Molly, where is Molly?
Yeah, she's at Donald Faison's house. They first see the music video that Molly inspired.
What a one-hit wonder that slut turned out to be.
Big.
And he's wearing the jacket that he was bitching about.
The nerve.
The like true nerve. They get a knock on the door and it's like a doorman.
What's going on?
Pig is being returned because Ray is pissed at Molly. And she's pissed at Molly because her dad died. The conversation earlier saying like, if you talk to him, it often helps. She's just trying to give her a little bit of hope.
And the ones where their friends and families talk to them, they held on 10 times longer than the ones that were left all alone.
I swear.
I swear.
pinky promise.
When you're a little kid, sometimes you take things like extremely literally. And that was the one little bit of hope she got. And for the dad to die so soonly after that conversation, I think Ray just took that as like, screw you. You gave me a little bit of hope in this life, and you took down all of my tools and defenses for when this was going to happen. And you made me this open person. You take back the pig, whatever. And Molly immediately goes to Ray's apartment, is trying to like talk to her, and Ray is silent, will not speak to her, and she's told to go talk to Heather Locklear, who gives her her month's paycheck, and it says, "Thank you very much. My daughter does not want to see you anymore," which is a heartbreaking scene.
The moment in the movie where we really get the shift in Molly, because Molly and Roma fires Molly, and Roma's like, "I don't know what was going on with my daughter, but my daughter's made it clear she doesn't see you again." And Molly kind of just sits up and is like, "You know what?
You don't know what goes on between me and Ray. Because you don't know very much about your own daughter.
I know my daughter well enough to respect her wishes.
Molly putting on her big girl pants."
Right. Molly is like, wow, she must be like out of her mind with grief, because Molly's probably remembering how she felt like when she was a kid. And Heather's like, oh no, she's actually, she's handling it very well. She's, very adult-like, and she's fabulous.
That's such a non-normal reaction for any age person, unless the parent was awful.
That's the breakup of the movie that's truly sad. Until later in the film, where Heather Locklear comes for Molly's help because Ray has gone missing.
Hi, it's Molly.
Miss Gunn, I know that you've been let go, but is there any chance that you've seen my daughter today?
And only really Molly can know where she went.
Because Molly told her the story of like when her parents died, she ran away. She went to Coney Island and rode the teacups the whole time.
And I think that stayed in Ray's mind that this is her coping mechanism. This is like how she got through it. So Ray took off to the teacups, and that's where Molly finds her in Coney Island. And you just get this sad, cathartic scene. With the music, I love the music of this movie too, by the way. I love how it mixes a lot of pop music, like Molly's side of the world, mixed with classic music like Ray. And you just get this classic music coming in, and by the time they're done spinning, they're off the teacups, and Ray just like unloads on Molly. She just lets it out. I feel like this girl needed this the whole time. It heals Molly too, because she's hugging herself in that moment as well. She's hugging the little Molly in that moment.
It's a really sad, but it's a really beautiful scene of like Ray just breaking down and for once letting someone take care of her and feel like she needs someone, and Molly just being there.
Right. And like we were pointing out a lot too, like Molly didn't have that at that point. She was alone in the teacups at Coney Island. And how different and how healing. And even though she's got a mom that's alive, she's Heather Locklear. Oh my gosh, that's awful.
Molly is being there for the little Molly that didn't have anyone to be there for.
Basically, that's the climax of the movie, and as we see the movie line up, everybody is in a better position than when they started off the movie. And maybe Molly's not rich like she was, but towards the end of the movie, you see her really starting to take ownership of her life. She's paying the bills. She's starting to get her life together and live life like an adult.
After the Coney Island scene, they have the funeral, and we run into like the two most like early 2000s.
Mark McGrath.
Navarro.
Molly Gunn?
Yeah.
No, I saw that kid Neil Fox's video. Didn't you create his look or something? I heard.
Jacket. I don't know why everybody's talking about it. Hi.
Hi. Do you do pants too?
Like, did Neil, whatever his name is, like jacket? We like, can you make us a jacket like ours? And that starts playing the scene of like Molly like deciding to go to like I'm assuming FIT or like applying for fashion.
Right, you can see this possible future for her that's successful.
We see Molly being interviewed for school, and the dean of admissions, I'm going to assume is who it is like, Miss Gunn, like you listed the Dalai Lama as like a legitimate reference for you. Why are you not just gonna, why do this? Why not just skip all this and you can go and work with one of your designer friends? And she's like,
It would be a lot more fun than toiling away here for 4 years.
Fundamentals are the building blocks of fun. I always say.
Molly's like, no, like if I'm gonna do this, I'm really gonna learn. And that comes from like a Ray standpoint. We see at the very end, like Ray has a dance recital, but like, and she's letting loose in this recital.
Yeah, instead of her being all regimented, she's like loose and rocking out. And it's such a fantasy because it's very much like a Dakota Fanning solo. The dance studio just let this British rocker come in and choreograph like a solo for Ray.
Breeze new life gives me a part of me.
Coming in at the end with the guitars. She was auctioning off a bunch of her dad's guitars, and then he has all the guitars at the end there on the stage. And that's gorgeous. I don't want them to get back together. He can like make this up to her, but I don't want them to be a couple after this.
The movie gives you the vibe that like that's what's gonna happen. The vibe of like they're gonna get together.
Right, because this, early 2000s, we were stuck in that thing where like, like the love interest has to get together at the end. There has to be some sort of love interest, which nowadays we don't have that as much, which I love.
Movies that have a romantic storyline where the two people don't end up together, 9 out of 10 times is a better story. It's like the whole new storyline didn't need to happen.
Right, like it was kind of just added more to Molly's life and showed that she was a fun 20-something and a little bit of like that chick flick appeal, hot British dude.
Yeah.
But in general, like if this movie was only Dakota Fanning and Molly and like Brittany Murphy's storyline, I'd be so down for that as well. We have him singing Molly Smiles at the end again with Dakota Fanning dancing, and it's just it's like Molly's watching her little girl self be happy and dancing on the stage. Basically, it's like really, really pretty, and the movie goes to end credits there with the rose petals, and it's just a vibe.
And yeah, I love this movie, and I just wish this movie got more love.
Yeah, I wish this movie got more love too. Let's all collectively try to bump up that Rotten Tomatoes percentage, even though you don't listen to Rotten Tomatoes. That's what this lesson is. But don't decide if you're going to watch a movie based on the Rotten Tomatoes percentage.
No, yeah, don't.
So that was 2003's Uptown Girl, such a classic, and we're hoping to spread even more love for this movie. It's the movies that raised us, and we just want to pay respect.
I don't know what's been going on between you and my daughter.
You're right, because you don't know your own daughter.
MGM Pictures presents
You can't act like a kid anymore.
Don't leave like this.
Brittany Murphy,
What's so great about being a grown-up anyway? So I could turn out like you?
You're scared.
Dakota Fanning,
That's kind of harsh.
It's a harsh world.
in a comedy about a grown-up who needed to grow up.
We are going to sit in giant teacups and spin round until we puke.
Are you insane?
And the kid who taught her how.
Down here.
I do.
Uptown Girls.
Thank you so much again to Harlow for joining me on this review. Be sure to check them out on YouTube, Instagram at Harlow Harlow. They make so much amazing content, breaking down pop culture, film, you name it, fashion, and putting out so much beauty into the world.
Aw, thank you. Thank you so much for having me again. It's been so much fun. Bye.
Bye, love.